Welcome to the HCI family of podcasts. We're your source for personal, professional, and organizational growth and development. We share our own original research, explore industry trends, and interview executives and thought leaders from across the globe. Join us for practitioner-oriented content around all things leadership, HR, talent management, organizational development, and change management. Maximize your personal and organizational potential with the HCI family of podcasts. Lori Saitz, welcome to the conversation today.
Thank you for having me, John. I'm excited to be here.
It's a real pleasure to be with you. You're joining us from North Carolina. I'm south of Salt Lake City in Utah. And today we're going to be talking about integrating gratitude and mindfulness into your corporate environments to transform the wellness approaches and overall wellness environment. You know, this is really important in this day and age of burnout and overwhelm. And, you know, the world is frankly a completely crazy place.
Yes, it is.
You know, and so I think, it's just really important for us to as leaders to figure out how to practice self-care, as leaders to figure out how to be supportive of our team members. And so this will be a fun opportunity to have this conversation. As we get started, I wanted to share Lori's bio with everybody. Lori Saitz is the founder and CEO of Zen Rabbit and host of the podcast Fine is a four-letter word. As the CEO of a forward-thinking health and wellness company, she is dedicated to guiding corporations towards nurturing healthier, more productive work environments. With a comprehensive background in wellness, strategies, and employee engagement, her mission is to help businesses implement programs that not only improve the well-being of their teams, but also contribute to their bottom line through increased performance and reduce absenteeism. Anything in particular you would like to share with the audience by way of your background before we jump on into the conversation?
Just that, the through line through everything I've done in my businesses and in my career has been connection and helping people feel connected and building community. I just think that's so important. And I know we're going to get into talking about that today.
Yeah, absolutely. Connection is so important. We're all social animals, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
And we need that connection. If COVID taught us anything, it's that social isolation is damaging to the human spirit.
Absolutely. I mean, it's great that we have. Go ahead.
While it may be important for physical health, it is damaging to emotional health and social health.
Well, and when you damage your emotional health, it leads to further damaging your physical health, really.
Yeah.
I was going to say, we've got all of this great technology, and that's fantastic that we are able to connect virtually in all of this. But as humans, we have not evolved past that need for interpersonal connection.
Yeah, yeah. And this isn't a COVID conversation, but since it kind of came up, I have to just say, recognize my privilege during that period because, I was fortunate enough, even with all the isolation, that I have a family, my wife and my 6 children that, it was hard for all of us and it was hard for my children in particular. But we did have each other, and my children are all pretty compact. They're all about 1.5 to 2 years spaced, and so they're all friends. And so at least we had that. And that is more than a lot of people had. In terms of social connection during that time.
And you bring up the whole point of this is what this conversation is about how important it is to help people connect in the workplace or, in life in general. But yeah, it's really important to be able to bring their people together to get the best results, right? But it's also good for their mental and emotional health as well.
Okay, so let's talk about the inspiration around, finding ways to integrate gratitude and mindfulness into what you do to, with your approach to wellness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I talk a lot about in my sessions about the importance of gratitude in the workplace. And the origin of this happened back in 2003. I had started my first company called Zen Rabbit Baking Company, and I was making a product called the Gratitude Cookie that was based on a family recipe, but designed to be something that businesses could use to say thank you to clients or employees or people who sent them referrals. And I ran that business for 11 years, was talking a lot about the importance of gratitude in business, not just for, not just throwing out the thanks for coming in, kind of thing. Like it's just random, doesn't even really have any authenticity behind it. But
Yeah.
really, really making people feel like they are part of an important group, that they are valuable, their contribution is valued. And it's funny because I remember being at a networking event and talking to somebody, and she was like, "Well, why do I need to say thank you to them? That I'm paying them. Don't they know I appreciate them?" I was like, "Oh, I'm so never. I can't."
Again, we're human. Like,
Yes, yes. I mean, think about the last time that you received a compliment, or not even, it's not even really a compliment. It's like, "Hey, John, thanks for your work today. It really helped move the project forward. And we couldn't have done it without you." Something like that. It doesn't even cost anything.
no. And it just takes a moment of thoughtfulness,
Hmm. Yeah.
intentionality. Yeah, it really is nothing. Yet it unfortunately is increasingly rare, it
Yeah.
seems. And that's in part what makes it special. I was having a conversation with someone else recently, just about how simple it can be, like how you can set yourself apart
Mhm.
and be in the 1%
Yeah.
just by like listening intently, like when you're with other people, listening intently, seeing them, hearing them, and then reflecting back to them and showing them that you genuinely care about them. And
Hmm.
I'm not talking like in the workplace, I'm not talking about like you don't have to like know every last thing about their personal lives or anything like that, but like recognize the cool things that they're doing in their work,
Yeah.
bring it up a week or two later, if you just do those basic things, like you
Right.
really will be in that 1%, and it
Yeah.
will make a difference. You will establish more meaningful, long-term trust relationships. I'm not like the most outgoing guy. Like I'm not an extrovert. I'm more introverted.
Hmm.
And so like sometimes people think, oh, that's just the charismatic extroverted person that does that kind of stuff. I'm like, no, not really.
Mm-mm.
And you can definitely be an introvert and establish very meaningful, authentic human connection with people in super easy, subtle ways, just by doing these simple little things, right?
Yeah, introverts are actually better at that
Hmm.
than the typical extrovert because of the reasons you said. Like they listen and they thoughtfully respond. And so it's not, a lot of times I hear introverts apologizing for being introverts.
Hmm.
No, 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 no. No apologies necessary. It's a superpower. It's a strength. Everything, it could be a strength. You can find strengths in extroverts and introverts, but I don't know
Sure.
why our society puts introverts in a box and like they're not as important, but they are. They're really good at this. And as you said, it doesn't cost anything, but it's so impactful. One of the other things that I hear, not often, but occasionally, somebody will say, "Well, if I express gratitude, isn't that seen as being a weakness? Like being kind is seen as a weakness." Just so again ridiculous because people want to, as a leader, you want people to follow you because they want to support you and they want to support the success of the organization, not just because you have a title and they are supposed to bow down to you or something. Like,
Yeah.
and this is one of the ways that you create that relationship where they want to support you. I think back to when I was in college, I did an internship. I was a communications major. Communications majors did not get paid for internships, unlike engineers and things, the more
Mhm.
scientific ones. But I was working for a marketing communications agency, very small. And for all the days that I was in there, I mean, whether I was just stuffing envelopes or I was actually writing press releases or whatever it was, before I left for the day, one of the agency principals would say, "Lori, thank you so much for your contribution today. Really appreciate, what I was saying earlier about giving me some gratitude for my
Mhm.
contribution." And here I am all these years later talking about it on your show because it was so impactful.
It kind of sometimes blows my mind that people see it as weakness, yet that is a common narrative. And I'm just thinking about like a recent video I saw of an interview. Um, I can't remember who was interviewing him, but it was an Elon Musk interview, and Elon Musk was talking about how one of the greatest weaknesses of Western civilization is empathy.
Wow.
uh,
Mm.
um, like that's a flaw, a huge flaw of Western civilization, and unfortunately, we're at a place right now where that's a sentiment that is increasingly commonly held
Hmm.
by by more and
Yeah.
more people.
Right. And when people feel like they don't belong, they're not being heard, the people around them are not empathetic, compassionate, or kind, they retreat into their own world. And loneliness is at epidemic levels in our society. And we can look at the statistics to see how this affects people in terms of depression and anxiety and inability to focus and lack of productivity. And these are all things that businesses should be caring about, whether you want to be seen as weak or you're afraid to be seen as weak because you're empathetic. These are
Yeah.
actually affecting your business statistics, the
Hmm.
success of your business, which is why you should care. I mean, you should care as a human, but why you should care from a business standpoint is that when people are not feeling like they belong, not feeling like they are contributing, and therefore not being productive as they could be, that's affecting your bottom line.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, and maybe, we're so polarized, partisan politics, whatever the reason is, you have people like Musk saying those types of things.
Hmm.
Um, do people really think that? Do people really believe that? When you get people one-on-one, interacting human to human, I just can't buy it. I just don't believe people can think that or feel that way. Like people, human to human, need it. They want
Right,
it.
right.
Right? Right?
Yeah, I do agree when you get to people one on one, but when you're in business situations and there's a lot of chaos happening, maybe there are mergers and acquisitions or layoffs or whatever's going on in a company, they need to make their numbers and there's a lot of there's a lot of stress and there's a lot of chaos, and it's very easy
Yeah,
to forget when you're in the midst
for
of
sure.
the battle that there are other people around you that need your support or need your compassion. So maybe it's not necessarily from a deliberate, I'm not going to be empathetic or compassionate place. It's just that I'm so stressed out and I have to get this done. I can't I can't think about, or it doesn't come to mind that maybe I could be kinder to somebody sitting next to me and we could all benefit from that. It's kind of like an oversight almost.
Yeah, yeah. So what do we do about that? What do we do about that oversight? What do we do about maybe that corporate mentality? How do we foster, as leaders, more of this mindfulness and wellness environment within our organizations with gratitude? Um, when we're battling, when there's that tension
Hmm.
that often exists. We're in a kind of short-term oriented, bottom line, growth at all costs. Kind of an environment, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's the responsibility of leaders to first take care of themselves, have and compassion and empathy for themselves. And what that looks like in a business situation is implementing perhaps some grounding, calming techniques so that you as a leader can be more focused in what you're doing and lead by example and not be all hair on fire. Because from an energetic standpoint, you've seen this. You walk into a room and you can feel the
Yeah,
energy.
yeah,
And so when you're in an environment where maybe you're, as a leader, you're frazzled and dumpster fires are happening everywhere, your team feels that. So how can you as the leader find a way to calm and ground yourself so that you can be a more effective leader so that again energetically you're projecting this image of calm. And it doesn't mean you're pretending everything's great if it's not. It just
yeah.
means that you are coming from a place of strength. And think of a redwood tree. They
Mm,
are rooted into the ground. And no matter what's going on around them in the environment, they are rooted. And so if you can create that kind of stability for yourself, and there are many ways to do it, then your entire team and your entire company benefits from that.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting. You just commented on, not pretending that everything's great, not having a Pollyanna-ish
Mm-hmm.
approach. Now, on the one hand, like I really appreciate, the hopeless optimists that are out there. Especially
Yes.
especially right now, like
Yeah.
my goodness, I have to admit, like sometimes I wake up in the morning and I'm like, okay, what crazy thing happened
Mm-hmm.
is going to happen
Yeah. Yeah.
today? And in some ways, I feel like I'm kind of that hopeless optimist. I feel like you almost have to be to navigate like the world right now. But it can also be super frustrating and annoying, and sometimes it feels tone deaf. And I have to admit, like sometimes if you're feeling down and blue and beaten down, that's not what you need emotionally. It's like
Right.
you don't
Right.
need someone to tell you, no, it's everything's okay. Like sometimes you need someone to just like listen and to like to be supportive in like the challenge. And so just being real with people as a leader,
Yeah.
being able to acknowledge and listen and accept that yes, like this is a hard situation.
Right.
Yes, I don't have all the answers. Yes, we're gonna have to try to work through this together. Like those are good things that can build trust, that can build and deepen, your professional relationships with your team, if you handle it the right way. But you got to be careful because you don't want to like come across as you're someone who's like just sticking your head in the sand, pretending like everything's fine, ignoring, the actual hard things that are you're facing. Because some leaders do that, and that's going to come
Yeah.
back to bite you.
Absolutely. And you're right. And I'm glad you brought it up because it's not about pretending everything is okay. It's about recognizing what's happening. And, if you're feeling emotions, anger, sadness, frustration, feel those emotions. That's part of being human. Not saying stuff them down and pretend they don't exist. At the same time, we can come back to this whole concept of gratitude and still find gratitude within any situation. It's always there and you can always find it. And so, one of the things I recommend when I'm doing workshop sessions is to with leaders is to start meetings with let's refocus everybody onto something. What's something good that happened in your world today, or what's something that's going right now, and then we can dive into the other stuff. But let's first start with finding the good, finding the gratitude. It changes the energy of the room. And now people are more prepared to be open and collaborative and to dig into, there's an issue that needs solving. There's a challenge. There's something that is blowing up and we need to fix it. Let's start though with what can we find to be grateful for? And it opens up when you practice gratitude, it
Yeah.
opens you up creatively. You become more creative, you become better able to solve problems. And so if you start that way and then dive into a problem issue, you're going to get it solved a lot faster.
I appreciate that. And I'm thinking of this was a personal experience I had. This was maybe a couple weeks ago. And it was a group of trusted colleagues. And we were having lunch together. And frankly, it was kind of a bitching session. Like
Mm-hmm.
we,
Yeah.
we, we were frustrated, and it wasn't even work related. It was just
Yeah.
like general like
Mm-hmm.
state of the world, right? And
Yep.
we were frustrated and complaining and talking about what we're scared about and all of those sorts of things. And it was cathartic and it was important, and we were supportive of each other and all of that, right? It was good. But then one of my friends did something that was just really, really important. To your point, she stopped and she said, "Okay, this has been helpful, but let's stop and think about one really great thing in each of our lives and share that with each other." you
Yes.
know, and
Yes.
because we just spent 45 minutes talking
Mm-hmm.
about all the horrible things, you know.
Yeah.
And we stopped and we acknowledged, like, yeah, things aren't great at the moment, but we each have some really amazing things in our lives.
Mhm.
And we stopped and we focused on that for about another 15 minutes. And guess what? It changed the whole dynamic, changed the whole feeling. We were able to like get back to our day, get back to like a productive afternoon. We didn't have any particular thing we had to like solve. It wasn't
Mhm.
that kind of a
Mhm.
situation,
Yeah.
but we were able to recenter ourselves, and we were able to like get back to productivity and back to something that could at least be functional.
Yeah, yeah, so that you didn't walk away from the conversation still mulling over all of the negativity. And
Yeah.
it's funny because I wrote a post on LinkedIn a week ago or so, the similar. I was out to dinner with some friends, and that was the topic of conversation, as it turns. And I said, "Hey, how about what's the best thing that happened to you this week?" And so each person who's listening to this show has the power to do this in a work environment or out in the outside of work. People are wringing their hands over what can I do? The state of things is such a mess, and there's nothing I as a single individual can do. Well, this is one thing that you can do, and it seems small, and yet if we are all doing it, it has a ripple effect.
Yeah, gratitude definitely has a ripple effect. Our mood, how we interact with each other has a ripple effect,
Yeah.
100%. Well, go ahead.
I was just going to say the other thing about gratitude that sometimes gets overlooked is it's when you practice it, its effect on your physical health. I think
Yeah.
we touched on that a little bit, but people who practice gratitude sleep better
Mm.
and feel less physical pain. And I bring it up because there are a lot of people who are having sleep issues right now.
Yeah.
And practicing these simple things about gratitude and some of the other ones that I teach as well it helps you immensely all around.
Well, Lori, this has just been a fantastic conversation. We could go on, but I do note the time. I need to let you go here in a minute. Before we wrap things up, I wanted to give you a chance to share with the audience how they can connect with you, find out more about your work, where they can find your podcast, and then give us the final word for today.
Absolutely. Yeah. The best place to find me is on LinkedIn. I spend lots of time there. And so I invite you to connect with me on LinkedIn. My podcast is available on all of the places you find your show. So find it there. It's called Find is a four-letter word. Stories of a time when people said everything was fine and it was not fine at all. Come to zenrabbit.com to get the 10 proven habits top leaders use to stay calm and focused every day.
Excellent. Lori, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. I encourage the audience to reach out, to get connected, find out more about what Lori can do for you. Check out the podcast. And as always, I hope everyone can stay healthy and safe, that you can find meaning and purpose at work each and every day. And I hope you all have a great week. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the podcast. We hope you stay healthy and safe, and please join us again soon.